What, you know what? Just to be safe, thing you did ended up saving your butt later. I was an expediter at a restaurant. It was super busy and I was trying to get runners for food. Was about to send out a stack of dim sum when I looked at the ticket again with a note that said no peanuts on the tempura tofu. I had read it earlier and didn't sprinkle peanuts on it. Another server was about to run it to the table when I told him to wait and get the actual server for the table. We were slammed and he was kinda pee but went and got him. The actual server comes back and he's all frustrated when I ask him, does your no peanuts guy not like peanuts or is he allergic to them? Server responds with he's very allergic to them. That's why I put no peanuts on the ticket. He was all being crappy with me. I told him, well, the fricking tempura tofu is fried in fricking peanut oil. Didn't realize the head chef was behind me and heard the whole thing. Server didn't know we only used peanut oil. It was an Asian fusion really nice upscale restaurant. Needless to say the head chef, freaking reamed this guy. I was a half second from sending that food out too. Would have been bad. Depends on the peanut oil and the allergy, but the person may have been fine. The FDA does not classify highly refined peanut oil as an allergen. Studies have shown people with peanut allergies can still eat foods containing peanut oil if it is refined, but not cold pressed or extruded oil. Safety glasses. When working away, it's easy to talk yourself into doing something really quick without them, and there is always a voice in your head yelling at you to put them on. Stopped grinding the thing I was working on, got my glasses, came back, and then this chunk flies up and cracks the right lens. Spidey senses 1, Murphy's Law 0. I knock out my shoes and squeeze the toes for good measure. Hi Mr. Brown Recluse. Only happened once, but once was enough to convince me it was a good habit to have. I've had a handful of these in my life. The one that popped in my head first was from a party when I was 16. It was in a small farm town about 20-25 minutes from my actual town, and everyone was out partying in somebody's parents' barn and having a real good time. I didn't realize that our Dee had been drinking all night. When it was time to go, I couldn't even tell she was tipsy, but something wasn't right, so I didn't want to drive back with them. For whatever reason, I decided to get the verbal tongue lashing from my mom when she came to pick me up. Well, my friends in the first car were apparently veering across the road, got picked up by the cops, and all of them got to spend the night in jail. Glad I opted for my mom. Arrive in San Francisco a week into a trip. As we gather our things during a moment of downtime, I go back to check the bus cause, you know, it never hurts. Found my passport, which I had no idea I'd dropped. This is why I check my passport religiously when I have it on me. I'm well aware it's in my purse, but I got to check at least 50 times on the way to the airport, at the airport, etc. Had that thing stolen once when I was a kid and my mom didn't make sure it was still there, so getting back into the country was a little hard. Submitted before I was done. When I was like 5 years old, my parents took my sister and me to a planetarium show, and every kid got a souvenir pencil that had the distances of the planets from the sun written on it. Mercury, Venus, Earth, etc. The guy running the planetarium show said something like, hang on to these pencils until 7th grade, kids, and you can use them to cheat on your astronomy tests. He was joking, but I never forgot. And sure enough, it was the exact pencil I used to cheat on astronomy in 7th grade. I felt smart but also bad because I didn't feel good cheating and almost never cheated after that. I had a car sitting on jack stands because I needed to do some transmission work. Before climbing under it, I thought it'd be a good idea to rock the car around. One of the jack stands was not in the right spot and the car slipped off it, slamming down on the front disc brakes. Would have killed me. One of my co-workers died earlier this year from this very thing. You were good to check. Saved an email where a lead developer told me to do something stupid. A couple years later, him, now a manager who liked to yell at his subordinates, we were talking about this stupid behavior and he yelled, "Well, why did you do that?" I pulled up his email, clearly instructing me to do just that. He sputtered and walked off, speechless. This guy is one of the reasons I still have trust issues with management, even after a string of really competent, caring, trustworthy managers. Take 10 before you send has saved my butt countless times. Means take 10 seconds to reread your email, post whatever written communication before you send. Emails, especially in the workplace, Last forever. I bought a used Subaru Baja that was 5 years old at the time and had 75k miles for $12k. The salesman offered an extended warranty that covered the engine for $2,500. Would last 3 years / 36k miles. That was kind of a lot, and I usually don't buy those. I don't know what got into me that day, but I said sure. 1 month and 750 miles later, after an oil change at a mechanic shop, oil started shooting into the pistons. I'm not good with cars. Oil went where it wasn't supposed to go. Completely ruined the engine and turbo. The dealer had to keep it for 3 weeks. The warranty company flew someone out to inspect the car and eventually approved a replacement engine, turbo, and any other affected parts. Total repairs cost almost $11k, and the warranty then applied to all the new parts too. Car drove like it was brand new. Later discovered the car had 5 previous owners before me, but I couldn't find any accident or serious repair history. This is probably the only time buying an extended warranty on something actually worked out in my favor. Oil went where it wasn't supposed to go. That about sums up my knowledge of cars. Glad it worked out for you. Was remodeling my house. Took out a loan and had to get the house appraised to get the loan. Found that my house was worth 100k more than I had it insured for. Raised my limits on the home insurance to 50k more than the appraised value in anticipation of completing renovations. 2 weeks later, house burned to the ground due to a faulty bathroom fan that I did not touch. City, insurance company and loan company all sent separate investigators due to how shady it looked. I can't speak for the city, but I can say that the insurance company and the loan company, which has its own insurance, would have sent out an inspection for that regardless of the circumstances due to the dollar amount of the claim. Skepticism and an attitude of trust but verify are simply baked into the job. Source: was an underwriter for a major insurance company. I work in IT. When I started working where I do 9 years ago, I noticed that volume shadow copies, VSS, were not turned on the file server. I went ahead and turned it on, and thank God I have never had to pull the tape in the whole 9 years, and I hope to not ever have to. I did not ask for permission to do it because I knew corporate wouldn't let me do it. Space was $$ back then. The guy at corporate that was over all their servers called and thanked me for doing it because he was also going to do it, and since I did it first, he was allowed to. I have had to use the VSS copies many times, but most recently our exec VP of quality accidentally deleted her network share with all of our employees' info in them. Thankfully VSS is on and it saved my butt as well as hers. For the non-IT crowd, VSS is a service that is on MSFT servers. It allows the system to make a copy of all files changed for a period of time. I have it set to 3x a day, which captures anything deleted or changed in that time. 9, 12 and 3. I just have to show my user that deleted change lost their file. How to get them back from previous versions. No number. Never show the user how VSS works. You always keep that in your back pocket and make sure they understand that when they delete something important, they royally fricked up, but that you, as a king crap IT person, are there to save their butt. When there's no apparent consequences, users get even sloppier, and in the long run, that makes your job a dang nightmare. When I was 20, I worked at a gas station. They had just changed the law to if the customer looked 40 and under, you had to ID them for cigarettes. I was by myself. Lady came in and ordered a pack of Camels. She looked roughly 45, so I didn't ask. I had this nagging feeling throughout the transaction that it would be a very good idea to ask. So before I took her money, I kinda laughed and said, "Mind if I see your ID real quick? I'm really sorry, you're clearly old enough, but they changed the law recently on who we have to ID." She just looked at me and said, "I'm so glad you asked," and flashed her work card at me. She was a freaking inspector. If I didn't ask her, I would have been arrested and fined. That was the day I learned to trust my gut, and I also suck at telling people's ages. She was 35. Went hiking in the middle of the day with a friend and his GF. I brought flashlights for each of us. Well, the hike took a lot longer than expected and my buddy's GF sprained her foot at the end. It took us nearly 3 times as long to get back, and it was dark with relatively rocky terrain. Those flashlights saved our bacon. I can't even fathom how long it would take to stumbling in the dark otherwise. Scout's motto, be prepared. I always carry water, a flashlight, snacks, first aid kit, and rain gear. I just keep a day hike bag prepared and snag that, so I don't even have to think about it anymore. I had originally booked a rental car for a trip to Iceland using my credit card points. 2 days before, I cancelled and booked it with my credit card, which provides rental vehicle coverage because it looked like the weather wasn't going to be great while we were there and I wanted the extra protection. While there, we got into an accident for which we were not at fault. The car was almost a total loss and I had to pay $12k plus out of pocket to the company. It took a few months and a ton of paperwork, but the credit card company refunded all of it. I still think about how so lucky it was that I changed the booking. I would have been ruined for a very long time otherwise. I used to be a banner tow pilot and was often tasked to fly banners over NYC area, especially over the Hudson River. I would pick them up at an airport in NJ and make my way over from there. Typically, if you were to run into some kind of engine problem, you have a fair number of places you could theoretically land if you had engine trouble. Not so much over the NYC metro area. So I picked out a trail of breadcrumbs, if you will, of specific places I could try to land my plane if I ever had to. On the 1-year anniversary of the miracle on the Hudson, Captain Sullenberger, etc., I was given the job to fly a banner over a boat on the Hudson that would be carrying the crew and some passengers from the flight. On the way there, my engine failed while I was less than 1,000 feet above the ground. Sinking quickly, I needed to find a place to land right away. Fortunately, my best previously selected spot was just to my left, a landfill on Staten Island, and I put the plane right on the top of it. My friends and I were always giving crap to another friend because he was never wearing the seatbelt while driving. One night another friend and him drove me home. It was pretty late and we were all tired. When they dropped me off I told him, use the fricking seatbelt, you dumbass. The next day, around lunchtime, I got a call that my 2 friends got in a car accident. The dumbass fell asleep while driving my other dumbass friend's car. They hit a parked car, which hit the car in front of it and got stuck into a wall. The parked car acted as a ramp for their car. They flipped over and slid like 20 meters upside down. For some reason the dumbass had his seatbelt on for the first time ever and he didn't get injured. Both of them crawled outside the car without a single scratch. If I'm not wrong, my friend in the passenger seat broke his pinky though. Dumbass learned his lesson and his seatbelt is always on now, even when he's in the passenger seat. I remembered it wrong. My friend broke his index finger on the right hand, not the pinky. I was offered a job in Europe, where I was promised a bonus that was X% of my salary, paid twice a year. When the offer was sent, there was no mention of the bonus, and when I questioned why, I was told, don't worry, it's in this email with my official company signature. I put that one into the saved folder, just to be safe. Fast forward to moving. On the first payout period I was told I needed to be with the company for 90 days first before a bonus would be paid. Okay, I was annoyed, but I guess that makes sense. On the second bonus payment, they mentioned that the company hadn't had a great year and nobody would be getting bonuses. More annoyed. But if the company isn't doing great, what are you going to do? I should add this was in 2008. The following year rolls around and the company announces that things have really taken off and they will pay out the previous bonus period, in addition to the current bonus period. Only problem is, I literally handed in my resignation that day. I inquire to find out if I'll be receiving my bonus from the previous bonus period, and they say, are you kidding? You just quit. I call a lawyer. I dig up the email from the start of this post, hand that over, and the lawyer says it's a slam dunk case. She goes after both bonus payments from the first year and both bonus payments from the current year, even though one of them hasn't happened yet. Company HQ calls me and tries to get me to drop it, and I refer them to my lawyer. A week later, at my new job, the lawyer informs me that they've paid all 4 bonus payments, and she also went after her own fees, so it cost me nothing. Glad I saved that email. Cover your butt, and do not let others push you around. If I've learned something from Reddit, it's lawyer up, and hitting the gym never hurt no one. I was undergoing pilot training and was pretty new to the whole thing, feeling the pressure to perform, etc. I walked out to pre-flight a plane for a solo flight. You do this completely alone. Instructor was back at flying school doing something else. After doing my walk around, it's time to check the oil. Cessna 172s have a dipstick that is attached to a cap that screws into the engine. You unscrew cap and remove dipstick along with it and check the oil. Except, after I unscrew the cap, there doesn't seem to be a dipstick attached to it. I have this thought, well, the engine is still warm from the dudes who just flew before me, so they flew it like this. Maybe they had a separate dipstick. They must have checked the oil then some other way. Then I have the well. To be safe, I should actually pack this up and go ask someone at the flight school exactly how to check the oil in this case. Note, this takes quite a chunk of time out of my supposed flight and will cut my lesson for the day short by quite a margin. But I do it anyway. Long story short, info gleaned from subsequent investigations, the dipstick had broken off during the previous flight that had landed just minutes before and had slid straight into the engine, where the crank case had been chomping away metal from the tip, that metal now circulating in the engine. The aircraft was grounded. It was extremely dangerous to fly, and at massive cost had to be stripped down. The entire engine disassembled, and they actually had to find every bit of metal missing from the dipstick and assemble the dipstick before plane could be reassembled and made flight worthy again. If, in a moment of stupidity, I'd taken off in that plane, I'd probably be dead. That's so terrifying because it's just one of those moments where you could have easily reasoned yourself into saying, now those other guys were okay, so I'll be okay too. Many years ago when I was a tech at a call center, I was on a call with the client's IT guy to fix a corrupted database. Their IT guy shared screens with me so that I could work on the recovery. The IT guy renamed the files as fuckdb, fucked backup db, etc. Just to be safe, I had him say that it was he who named the files as such and not me. I asked him to confirm this each time I had to touch the files. I took screenshots also. Little did I know, this call was monitored, voice and screen recording. A day later, I got called in by a manager asking me to explain a situation that came out of a recent call I was on. He had only seen a few screenshots that were made by the recording program. I told him to watch the whole video with the cinched audio. A few hours later, he called me into his office to apologize for speaking to me with such an accusatory tone. Moral of the story, always cover your butt. On the brighter side, after the incident, this manager was always super nice to me and backed me up whenever there was an issue. He even wrote me a rave review recommendation on LinkedIn, back when LinkedIn actually got you jobs. The LinkedIn bit is just a tongue-in-cheek joke. I've had to work with investigators on some occasions at work. One said, "Sires confirm your actions," which is the same acronym as the other but isn't as bad to use in an investigation. If you have stuff happen at work, write it down right away or use a resource, the recording, like this. It can save you later. I went shopping to prep for my long distance girlfriend that was staying over and I saw boxes of baking soda in the market. I thought, oh yeah, it's smart to keep baking soda around in the kitchen in case you have a grease fire. So I grab a box. She's cooking breakfast the next morning while I'm in the shower when I hear her yelling for me. I come out and the stove is on fire. Like a champ I yell, I'm ready for this, and grab the baking soda and put out the fire. Always keep baking soda in the fridge, kids. Funnily enough, I was shopping with my neighbor friends in the adjacent apartment building and I saw they had kitchen fire extinguishers for like $15-20. I picked one up cause I needed one and mine was past date. They ended up doing the same just in case. About a month or two later, one of them caught oil on fire and ended up having to use it. Got insurance for a moving van. It was $50 and I thought just in case. Turns out my roommate wasn't paying attention and caused one of the walls to be ripped up. Would have cost near $3,000 in damages, but since I paid the $50, I didn't owe anything. Yeah, when you're renting a van, that's always worth it. Barely anybody is used to maneuvering such a big vehicle, so something can always happen. Noticed that the dickhead next to me had parked way over the line. I work at a hospital and even a crappy space like this is a godsend. So I decided to take a picture of my car well within the lines, and this car way over the lines, including the license plate. Driver could not get into her car because mine was too close to her driver's door, as it was 2 feet into the adjacent space, so she climbed into the passenger side, opened her door into mine 3 times to dent it, and drove away. Luckily, with both the photo with the license plate and the witness of 2 paramedics, I successfully reported it to the police. My mother's co-worker convinced her to get the best possible insurance when pregnant, because this co-worker had kids deprived of oxygen at birth. She said she could lower it once the kids were 5 and seemed normal. It was a struggle as my parents were both in college and working while raising my brother, so they were looking to cut costs wherever possible. I ended up being born with a birth defect that required a transplant before the new doctor even told her what was wrong. After rushing me away via ambulance, they asked her if she had insurance. She was able to say, yes, gold star, platinum, whatever. Many kids died even with the top class care I received, so I surely wouldn't have made it without it. I'm turning 30 next year. Thanks, random lady I've never met. She was an insurance sleeper agent. The long con. Saved a receipt from my dentist. They charged me, then delayed the procedure I paid for. When I asked for a refund, they changed my entire bill and told me I owed them another $300 when all they actually did was a cleaning and raise. I submitted both copies of the invoices to my dental insurance company and told them what happened. 3 weeks later, the insurance company, Delta Dental, resolved the issue with the dentist and I got a refund. Despite the dentist attempting to defraud me, they still regularly call me asking me to come back in. Recently they changed their name and moved a block down the road to try and hide from the plethora of negative reviews on Yelp. Running their crap that badly, I'm surprised the board still listens to them. Maybe folks didn't complain in the right place. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.